You killed someone today, not literally, not with your hands, but through a choice you made without even realizing you were making it. A moral calculation so automatic, so buried in your everyday decisions, that you've never even noticed you're doing it. Right now, you're making these calculations. As you watch this, you're deciding who lives and who dies through choices that feel completely ordinary, completely innocent. There's a thought experiment that philosophers have been using for decades to expose this hidden moral machinery in your mind. It's called the trolley problem, and once you understand it, you'll never be able to make a simple decision again without seeing the blood on your hands. Because the trolley problem doesn't just reveal how you think about ethics, it reveals that every choice you make, what to buy, where to live, how to spend your time, who to help, is actually a life or death decision in disguise. You think you're a good person. You think your choices reflect your moral values. But the trolley problem will show you that your moral instincts are inconsistent, irrational, and driven by psychological biases you don't even know you have. Picture this. You're standing next to a trolley track. A runaway trolley is speeding toward 5 people tied to the tracks. They can't escape. In 30 seconds, they'll all be dead. But you're standing next to a lever. Pull it, and the trolley switches to a sidetrack. The 5 people live. There's just one problem. There's one person tied to the sidetrack. Pull the lever, and you save 5 lives by ending one. What do you do? If you're like most people, this feels obvious. Pull the lever. 5 lives are worth more than 1 life. The math is simple. You save more people than you kill. But here's where it gets disturbing. Let me change the scenario slightly. You're standing on a bridge above the trolley tracks. Same runaway trolley, same 5 people about to die. But this time, there's no lever. There's just a very large person standing next to you on the bridge. If you push this person off the bridge, their body will stop the trolley. The 5 people live. The large person dies. Same math. 5 lives saved. 1 life lost. But now it feels different, doesn't it? Most people who would pull the lever won't push the person. Same outcome, same numbers. But suddenly it feels like murder. This inconsistency in your moral reasoning isn't a flaw. It's not something you can fix by thinking harder. It's built into the architecture of human moral psychology, and it's controlling every decision you make. Your brain is constantly running trolley problems. Every choice you make involves weighing lives against each other, suffering against suffering, help against harm. You just don't see it. When you buy coffee instead of donating that money to charity, you're choosing your temporary pleasure over someone else's meal. That's a trolley problem. You're letting someone suffer for your comfort. When you drive instead of walking, you're choosing your convenience over the environmental damage that might kill future people. Another trolley problem. You're trading future lives for present comfort. When you choose to help one friend with their problems instead of another, you're making a trolley decision about whose suffering matters more to you. But here's what's disturbing. You're not making these calculations consciously. Your brain is hiding the moral weight of your choices from you by making them feel automatic, ordinary, innocent. The coffee purchase doesn't feel like a life or death decision because the suffering it causes is invisible, distant, statistical. The person who goes hungry because you didn't donate doesn't have a face. They're not tied to tracks in front of you. But the math is identical. Your comfort, their suffering, your choice. This is what philosophers call the identifiable victim effect. You feel more moral obligation to save one person you can see than 1,000 people you can't. Distance, not math, determines your moral reactions. Think about how much money you spent on entertainment last month. Now think about how many lives that money could have saved if donated to effective charities. You just ran a trolley problem. You chose your pleasure over their lives. And you made the same choice the person who won't push someone off a bridge makes. You chose the psychological comfort of not directly causing harm over the mathematical reality of saving more lives. The difference between pulling a lever and pushing a person reveals something disturbing about how your moral psychology actually works. It's not based on consequences. It's not based on logic. It's based on how the action makes you feel. When you pull a lever, you're causing death indirectly. It feels like you're just redirecting the trolley. The machine kills the person. You just guided it. When you push someone, you're causing death directly. Your hands on their body. Your force ending their life. It feels like murder because, psychologically, it is murder. But here's what philosophers realized. This psychological distinction is completely arbitrary from a moral standpoint. Your moral intuitions aren't designed to handle modern ethical dilemmas. They evolved for small groups where you could see the direct consequences of your actions. They're not equipped for a world where your choices affect millions of people you'll never meet. This is why you can feel like a good person while participating in systems that cause massive suffering. The suffering is indirect, distant, mediated through institutions and markets and supply chains. You're not pulling a lever that kills someone. You're just buying products made with exploited labor. You're just investing in companies that damage the environment. You're just living a lifestyle that requires others to suffer for your comfort. The trolley keeps running. People keep dying. But because you're not pushing anyone directly, it doesn't feel like killing. But some people do push the person off the bridge. Some people make decisions based on outcomes rather than feelings. They're called utilitarians, and most people find them terrifying because someone who will push a person off a bridge to save 5 people might also lie to you to spare your feelings, might sacrifice one person's happiness for the greater good, might make any decision, no matter how it feels, if the math works out. This is the real horror of the trolley problem. Not that you might kill someone, but that there's no right answer that doesn't require you to become someone you don't want to be. The trolley problem isn't just a thought experiment. It's becoming reality. Right now, engineers are programming trolley problems into machines that will make life or death decisions automatically. Self-driving cars will face trolley problems constantly. Should the car swerve to avoid hitting 5 pedestrians if it means killing the one passenger? Should it protect the person who can afford the expensive car over the people walking? Medical AI systems run trolley problems when allocating scarce resources. Which patients get the limited treatments? Who lives and who dies when the system can't save everyone? Military drones face trolley problems when choosing targets. How many civilian casualties are acceptable to eliminate a terrorist? How do you program a machine to weigh one life against another? But here's what's terrifying. The machines don't have the psychological biases that make these decisions feel different to you. A machine doesn't care about the difference between pulling a lever and pushing a person. It just optimizes for outcomes. The AI doesn't feel better about saving 5 lives through indirect action versus direct action. It doesn't have the evolved moral intuitions that make you prefer feeling psychologically clean over saving more lives. So the machines are becoming perfect utilitarians. They're willing to push the person off the bridge. They're programmed to make the hard choices that your psychology protects you from. And this creates a new trolley problem. Do you want moral decisions made by machines that optimize for outcomes, or by humans whose psychology makes them inefficient but feels more human? Because here's what the trolley problem ultimately reveals. There's no such thing as a purely moral choice. Every ethical decision involves trade-offs between competing values, between consequences and intentions, between efficiency and psychology, between saving more lives and feeling like a good person. The trolley is always running. People are always tied to the tracks, and someone, human or machine, has to decide who lives and who dies. Every moral system humans have ever created breaks down when faced with trolley problems. Religious ethics, secular humanism, social contracts, they all give you contradictory answers depending on how the question is framed. Christianity tells you not to murder, but also to love your neighbor. If pushing one person saves 5 neighbors, which commandment wins? Utilitarianism tells you to maximize happiness, but happiness for whom? The 5 people who live? The families of the 1 person who dies? Future generations affected by the precedent you set? Kantian ethics tells you to treat people as ends in themselves, never as means. But using 1 person's death as a means to save 5 people violates this rule, even if you do nothing and let the 5 die. The trolley problem reveals that moral philosophy isn't a tool for finding right answers. It's a tool for understanding why there might not be any right answers. Your moral intuitions evolved not to find perfect solutions, but to help you live with imperfect ones. They're designed to make you feel like a good person even when you're making choices that cause suffering. This is why the trolley problem feels so disturbing. It strips away the psychological protection that makes moral decisions bearable. It forces you to see the mathematical reality underneath your ethical comfort zones. But perhaps this is exactly what moral thinking should feel like. Perhaps the comfort you feel when making good choices is a sign that you're not taking the full weight of your decisions seriously. Perhaps being a moral person means being constantly uncomfortable with your choices, always aware that every decision involves trade-offs between competing goods, always conscious that there's blood on your hands no matter what you choose. The trolley is always running. The lever is always in your hand. And the only difference between you and a killer is whether you're aware of the choices you're making. So here you are, back where we started, but now you know what you've been doing. Every purchase you make is a trolley problem. Every career choice, every minute you spend on entertainment instead of helping others, every political position you take, every relationship you prioritize. The mathematical reality was always there. You just couldn't see it before. You thought your choices were innocent because the consequences were hidden, distant, mediated through systems designed to preserve your psychological comfort. Now you have a choice to make about your new awareness. You can try to forget what you've learned. Go back to making decisions based on how they feel, rather than what they accomplish. Pull levers but never push people. Save your psychological comfort while others pay the price. Or you can bear the weight of conscious moral choice. Accept that every decision involves trade-offs, that there's no way to live without causing some suffering, that being good might mean being willing to feel like you're doing something bad. This doesn't mean becoming a calculating utilitarian who pushes people off bridges. It means becoming conscious of the bridge pushing that's already built into your daily life. Because the trolley problem isn't really about trolleys. It's about the gap between your moral psychology and moral reality, between how your choices feel and what they actually accomplish. It's about recognizing that the most important ethical decisions you make don't feel like ethical decisions at all. They feel like shopping, career planning, lifestyle choices, ordinary decisions with extraordinary consequences. The trolley has been running your entire life. The lever has been in your hand since you were old enough to make choices. The only question is whether you'll keep pretending you don't see the tracks. Right now, as you finish watching this, you're making a trolley decision. You could share this knowledge. Help others see the moral weight of their daily choices. Use your time and energy to make more people conscious of the ethical machinery running beneath ordinary decisions. Or you could go back to your comfortable moral blindness. Keep making choices based on psychological comfort rather than ethical consequences. Continue participating in systems of indirect harm while feeling like your hands are clean. Either choice has consequences. Either choice saves some people and condemns others. Either choice makes you responsible for suffering you could have prevented. The trolley problem doesn't end when the thought experiment ends. It continues every time you choose between feeling good and doing good. Every time you choose between psychological comfort and mathematical reality. You killed someone today, not because you're evil, but because you're human. Because you live in a world where every choice involves trade-offs between competing goods, where there's no way to help everyone and no way to hurt no one. The only difference between unconscious killing and conscious killing is awareness. The only difference between a good person and a bad person might be how much moral weight they're willing to bear. The trolley is still running, the lever is still in your hand, and now you know what you're choosing every time you move it. Welcome to moral consciousness. There's no going back to the simple decisions you thought you were making before you understood what you were really choosing.